The Realme U1, Realme's recent launch that we just about unboxed here on C4eTech. Now, whenever a new phone comes out in the 15K segment, there's just one question on everyone's minds. How does it stack up to the Xiaomi's Redmi Note 6 Pro? So let's find an answer to that question today. Hey guys, Ash here from C4eTech, and in today's video, let's compare the new Realme U1 with Xiaomi's Redmi Note 6 Pro and see how it fares. If you do end up liking this video, please don't forget to turn on notifications by clicking that bell icon. And by the way, here's a card to our current giveaways, check them out right here. Now before we start, let me know your guesses on which phone will win and give me a reason why. I will go through the comments and definitely pin one of them. So now let's get started with the comparison. Pick these phones up and the first thing you notice is how much lighter the Realme U1 feels. It's about a good 15 grams lighter, but there's a reason. Now, forget the weight, let's get to that in a bit. The Realme U1 with its glassy finished plastic back looks better in my honest opinion. The Redmi Note 6 Pro, on the other hand, has the tried and tested metal build. The back looks cleaner since it doesn't smudge as easily, and the curved edges help with ergonomics. So here you could say the Realme U1 looks flashier, but the Redmi Note 6 Pro is more practical. But turn these two around, and it's the U1 all the way. While the Redmi Note 6 Pro sports a wide notch, the U1 opts for the tiny little dewdrop. The display is also marginally larger on the U1, but it has an overall smaller footprint. It's a tad shorter, narrower, and even slimmer. So overall, as far as the build and design goes, I'm gonna give this to the Realme U1. Now since we touched upon the display, let's move on to that. Like I said, the Realme U1 sports the larger panel, 6.3 inches compared to 6.26 inches on the Redmi Note 6 Pro. Both have the same resolution, Full HD+. The Redmi Note 6 Pro has 19:9, while the U1 19.5:9. So the overall screen area might be more or less similar. The display on the Redmi Note 6 Pro is a tad warmer, but has the slightest of edges with regards to viewing angles. The Pro and the Con are both me nitpicking, trying my hardest to differentiate. The practical reality is that as far as the display quality goes, you'd be fine with either. Neither of them have any particular issues. The Realme U1 does take a minor lead here because of the tinier notch. Now while on the topic of display, let's also discuss media consumption, because that's what displays are mainly used for, right? Yes, the tiny notch would give the U1 an advantage, but the audio output via the internal speaker and the headphone jack are both a little better with the Redmi Note 6 Pro. The U1 is good, but the 6 Pro is just that much better. So the Redmi Note 6 Pro takes a win here. Now remember how the U1 had a slimmer build? Well, that comes at a cost, the cost being battery capacity. The Realme U1 sports a 3500 mAh battery, while the Redmi Note 6 Pro sports a 4000 mAh battery. The battery life on the Realme is quite good, but again, the Redmi Note 6 Pro is much better. At times, if you are gonna be frugal, then you could almost get to the end of day 2 on a single charge with the Note 6 Pro. So the Redmi Note 6 Pro takes another round. So now let's move on to what's at the heart of these two phones. But before we talk about the Redmi Note 6 Pro and the Realme U1, let's take a little trip down memory lane. A generation back when it was the Realme 1 versus the Redmi Note 5 Pro, that is the Helio P60 versus the Snapdragon 636, the Realme 1 won. Why? Because the P60 is more powerful than the Snapdragon 636. Now coming back to today, the Redmi Note 6 Pro hasn't gotten much of an upgrade. It still uses the same chip as the Redmi Note 5 Pro, while Realme has pushed things even further with the Helio P70, which is an improvement over the Helio P60. So this one's not really a competition. The Realme U1 wins the spec battle. Now don't get me wrong, the 636 is not a bad chip at all. It does run everything quite smoothly. The Redmi Note 6 Pro does not have day-to-day issues, but the Helio P70 on the Realme U1 is just all that more powerful and should make for an even better experience. Talking about experience, let's talk software. MIUI 10 on the Redmi Note 6 Pro, ColorOS 5.2 on the Realme U1, both based on Android 8.1 Oreo. Now we have talked about both MIUI and ColorOS a lot on C4eTech, so I'm not really gonna get into the nitty-gritty of it. All I can say is that both are quite stable and do get the job done. Neither offers app drawers and both have their own sets of extra features. This one it's gonna boil down to personal preference, which in the past for me would have been MIUI, but given Xiaomi's intense monetization of MIUI, I really have no horse in this race since ColorOS isn't too comfortable for me either. That said, both of them are quite snappy, they're both stable. Given the better internals, ColorOS might be a little snappier. That said, I'm again gonna leave this down to personal choice. So here's a poll, let me know which one's better for you. Now before we jump to cameras, let's be done with the miscellaneous stuff. The Redmi Note 6 Pro offers an IR blaster, which definitely comes in handy. It's not something the U1 does offer, but what the U1 does offer is a triple slot compared to Xiaomi's hybrid. So I'm gonna call this one a tie. And finally, we now move on to cameras. Both of them have dual cameras to the back and boast of a ton of AI functionality. We have a 12 megapixel f1.9 primary shooter on the Redmi Note 6 Pro, which is combined with a 5 megapixel depth sensor. On the other hand, with the Realme U1, we've got a 13 megapixel f2.2 primary along with a 2 megapixel depth sensor. Under bright light, both these cameras do well. The Redmi Note 6 Pro does have an edge thanks to the wider aperture, which means, as you can see, better bokeh, better blurring of the background. And the Redmi Note 6 Pro also has an edge with regards to dynamic range. The Realme U1's images are aggressively sharpened, but it's still quite competent under good light. Under low light, here's where the Redmi Note 6 Pro takes a major lead. The images are much brighter and the detailing is also better. Here are a few more samples. With portraits, both phones do well enough, but the 6 Pro's images tend to appear a little warmer. Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing all the time, it can get annoying sometimes. The Realme U1 has some portrait lighting options that the Redmi Note 6 Pro lacks. This is something we notice with selfie portraits too. I'm talking about the warmth in the images, by the way. The 25 megapixel selfie camera on the U1 does dominate here. The selfies, even ones without portrait, are much better. Note that the 20 megapixel selfie camera on the Redmi Note 6 Pro has its own 2 megapixel depth sensor, but still the Realme U1 does hold an edge. After winning on rear cameras and losing with selfies, the Note 6 Pro does take those cameras around thanks to better video. The EIS and clean focusing of the Redmi Note 6 Pro results in better Full HD video taken by it. Note that neither phone supports 4K, which is a tad disappointing. Okay, now time to wrap this one up with pricing. The base variant of the Redmi Note 6 Pro comes at 14,000 rupees, that's 464. The 464 Realme U1 is priced 1,000 rupees more, but given the dedicated microSD slot, the 332 at 12K might be a better option for most people. So if pure value for money is what you look at, then the Realme U1 seems to be the better option here. It does deliver the most for what you pay. But that's not to say the Note 6 Pro is a bad phone. If a high-capacity battery, rear camera for stills and video, and a tried and tested design is your highest priority, then you can pay 2,000 rupees more and get the Redmi Note 6 Pro. It is a quite solid offering. But for the rest, if you want the most performance for the price, a flashy look, the tiny notch along with an excellent selfie camera, the Realme U1 is an awesome option. So there you go, my 2 cents on this topic. What do you think? What did you pick at the start of this video? Was your choice correct? Let me know in the comments below. If you know someone who is shopping for phones within the 15K price point, then share this video with them. And with that, it is time I bid you adieu. Thumbs up, thumbs down based on what you felt about it. Also subscribe and turn on notifications by clicking that bell icon so that you don't miss out on any of my daily content. Thanks a lot for watching. Till next time, my name's Ash. You've been watching C4E Tech and I'm signing off for now. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.